Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest with Hayden Panettiere, a shocking arrest involving the son of former Real Housewives of Atlanta star Kim Zolciak and former NFL player Kroy Bierman. And their 15-year-old was charged with some pretty disturbing sexual assault charges, so we'll get into that. Then we're going to talk about another sexual assault, only this time it involves a healthcare professional and a teenage girl. We have another absolutely mind-blowing medical malpractice case where the wrong medication was administered to patients, leaving at least one person paralyzed. And we have an update on a case we brought you a while back about a human skull that was donated to Goodwill. Well, guess what? It wasn't a medical skull. All that and more on today's episode, and we'll follow up with your questions, comments, and emails. So wait, before we start talking about Hayden, this just happened. I don't even know if you've been online in the past hour, but Rob Shooter, who is on the Elvis Duran podcast network with us, he just posted a video saying that Perez Hilton tried to cut off his penis. There's reports of that.
Wow.
And I was like, I knew it. Because it's so common when we do cases in the gross room all the time of people who cut their own penis off. And it's always like in a case of psychosis like this. We have seriously 10 cases of it. And I was like, I wonder if he was doing that.
That's really interesting. I know you had pointed that out, and all I saw this morning was that he also had a bunch of broken bones that they didn't really elaborate on. It said due to falls. Well, I'm like, well, what falls? Like, did he jump out of a building? It looked like he lived in a rancher. This is very confusing.
Yeah, it is. And we don't have any of the official word yet. I'm sure there's going to be a point that he'll start talking about it in the distant future once he gets treatment and everything like that. And it'll be interesting because there was also reports that he was on some kind of drugs or something. Is that confirmed? Or
I saw something about drugs. I don't know if it was confirmed. And then, the information we're getting, I feel like is mostly from the family members who are sharing it, like his sister and the brother-in-law is who said something about the broken bones. I also saw criticism because they've resumed posting on his website and social medias, I guess, again. But if a lot of this was induced by financial stress, that's how that guy makes money. So, yeah, somebody has to resume keeping the money coming in if that's a concern of his. I also heard
if I tried to cut off my penis, you would still be trying to run the gross room,
totally.
Right?
No, I also heard, too, that, remember you were saying you were shocked by that house he was staying in? I heard something that he was building a new house in Miami, and that's the temporary housing they were living in. But yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just was shocked because it's I don't know who I put him on the same level as far as a famous person, but I was expecting him to have. I don't know why in my mind when he said he was moving to Miami, I was like, oh, he probably has one of those condos that overlooks the water and it's multi-million dollar, I just can't imagine that this whole time he hasn't been making a ton of money doing that.
I always say this when I talk about real estate stuff. So Miami is one of those cities that is astronomically expensive. I think it is way more expensive to live there than people realize, because I think the rest of Florida, you can live in pretty nice areas of Florida, and it's at least comparable to where we live. I think where we live outside of Philly is a very expensive area to live for, and for what? It's not scenic or beautiful here or anything. So I don't understand the value of the properties here. But when I was watching $1 Million Listing years ago, they would show a man, a whole estate in Beverly Hills, and that's $10 million, which is so much money for a house, but you're getting this enormous mansion and a big property, and you're you could see the ocean from some of it, you could see the mountains from some of it, whatever. And then when I watched $1 Million Listing New York, it's you could get a 2-bedroom apartment in Midtown Manhattan that's $25 million, and it's for what? You're living in an apartment. So I don't know.
It depends what people like, I guess.
The point I'm getting at is I think Miami is also very expensive like that. If you have one of those condos, sometimes they're $20 million.
Yeah. I just wasn't expecting a house that was like a little house with bars
But
on
that
the
might be
windows.
in
Like,
a
that
nice
was,
neighborhood, because that Airbnb we stayed at in LA when we went for Gabe's graduation was an $800,000 house on Zillow, and there was bars on the window. We heard gunshots in the backyard. So
yeah, well, that's not a nice neighborhood.
I know, but that's
Like,
an $800,000
that-
house where we live is a really nice house. So
Yeah, but California is like a whole different beast. Anyway, so all right, let's talk about Hayden. Like, so I was on vacation last week, if you guys didn't notice. So Maria had texted me and told me that she had died. So we haven't talked about it really on the show though. So
No.
let's get into the latest with
So
that.
you didn't really know who she is. I feel like for millennials, she's more prevalent because she was in a lot of shows around the time I was a teenager. So she was in Nashville and Heroes and everything like that. I think she was in the rebooted version of the Scream franchise too. So she was big then. She also used to go out with one of my ultimate celebrity crushes, Milo Ventimiglia. So I
have no idea who that
he was
is.
just on Gilmore Girls, duh. All right, so
What else is he? That's where he's from.
Well, that's where he started, and then what other show was he? He was on This Is Us, which is the saddest show ever. I don't think you've ever watched that. He was just in that Netflix show about the little boy that they thought was dead, but it was like a fake death. I don't remember what it's called. Whatever. I talked about it on YouTube Live. Somebody will know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so she died. It was reported not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before that she had died. And I don't believe her official cause of death has been released as of when we're recording this, but it's a suspected overdose due to the way she was found. And police are saying that there's no signs of foul play or anything suspicious necessarily, unless they're keeping that close to their chest.
Yeah, I mean, the autopsy didn't show any signs of trauma, so they're saying at least that for right now, but obviously they're going to have to wait for toxicology,
which they said could take up to like 3 months, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll take as long as it takes. So,
but I guess like there's a lot of layers to her death because she had just come out with this memoir a couple of months ago, which was really exposing a lot of things in her life. So one of them, which is coming up right now, was her ex-boyfriend, or I guess she was currently dating him again, Brian Hickerson. So he was at the apartment she was found with his brother, and people are pointing fingers at him. And I guess what's weird in this case is that in 2021, he was convicted for 2 felony counts of domestic violence where she was the victim. And then he had a hearing just a couple days before her death trying to get that record expunged, which was denied due to his drug use. And then she also has this history of drug use. So you have to wonder, like, if she's actively trying to get sober and with this dude, is he just, like, pushing her to do drugs again because he's actively using drugs?
I don't know. But if you've heard the interviews with him, he just sounds like, I mean, just knowing his history, because I feel like any man who beats on a woman is a loser anyway, but he just sounds like such a stoner loser. Like, it's just so sad to think that someone like her, who's so beautiful and talented, would like want to be with a person like that, you know?
Yeah, but like if you look back at her history, she just had a lot going on. She had a really weird relationship with her mother, and I don't know if you saw, her mom did like a full-blown sit-down interview yesterday. I think it was with ABC, talking about it. And I read the comments.
Her mom looks like a crazy person.
Her mom is giving Tammy Faye Baker, seriously, like permanent
not
makeup.
Even worse. What is happening there? I'm just like, she looked like she had a wig on top of her hair with like huge drawn on eyebrows and just crazy plastic surgery, and she just looked completely out of her mind.
Well, you know, I saw a comment under the clip on social media that I think really wrapped up everybody's opinions about it, where one woman said, if my daughter just died a week ago, let me tell you, I wouldn't even have been able to get out of bed and shower, let alone put on a full face of makeup and do a sit-down interview with ABC.
Yeah, well, she's gross, and she had made like a really interesting. The very first comment when her daughter died was that she said that Hayden had, quote, lost her way, and then she said growing up in Hollywood could lead young people down the wrong path, and added that she wished Hayden had stayed true to herself. And it's just like, it's so gross to me because this is like a childhood star. We talk about this all the time. that it's terrible for children. And you're like, the only reason that she's in Hollywood is because you put her there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure her first acting gig was when she was 11 months old. So, like, you're telling me the 11-month-old vocalized to you that she wanted to be an actress? Like, you put her into the world.
And wasn't she involved with, like, all that Nickelodeon stuff, potentially? Like, she worked there during that time, or she just was in Hollywood in a time. I feel like now is probably the most time for kids to be there because of all this stuff coming out. But even during, like, the Nickelodeon time and stuff, actually some actress today just posted a lawsuit against Nickelodeon from the year 2001.
Wow.
When saying that she was sexually assaulted, because I guess in California you could file something until you're like 40 years old for a past sexual assault.
I don't know why there's a statute of limitations
like she's almost
on sexual assault. Like, it should be seen the same as murder. I just don't understand it.
So regardless, like, there's just, like, we know the history with the whole, like, Drake and Josh show and, like, Ariana Grande and all this stuff. So it's like, who's also going through, like, severe mental distress right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you're sitting there saying that she's lost her way and stuff, and it's just like, what do you think is going to happen when you introduce a child into that kind of a life, especially when you're like a regular person?
Well,
you're not like, you know, it's not like I mean, like, listen, the Kardashians' kids are going to be screwed up too, but, like, it's not like you've been in that life your whole life and you have millions of dollars. It's like you're coming from being, like, essentially like a regular working class person to going into Hollywood. Like, it's going to be weird.
You mean you don't think Northwest could work at Starbucks like she claims she wants to?
Oh my God.
Yeah, anyway, so, like, going back to the child star thing, it's like she wrote in the memoir. I wanted to read it before, and now I have to because of all of this that went down. But she mentioned in her memoir, which we see in a lot of cases with children. I know there's a case with Justin Bieber where they were doing this too, where she said she was given, quote, happy pills to make her, quote, peppy in interviews. So, like, she was being introduced to drugs at a very young age to keep the ball rolling, which, who do you think was giving that to her? It was either her parents or her agents trying to keep her up so she could do press.
It's so gross. And how old did she say how old she was when she was doing that? She was a teenager?
So I think she was 15 when she was first introduced to those type of drugs, but it's important to note that a couple months before that, she had been filming this movie called Racing Stripes, which was, like, the dumbest premise ever. I actually think I saw this movie, like, so long ago. It's like you turn a zebra into a racing horse or something. It's so stupid. Anyway, she had a serious accident on that movie, and she was only 14 when she filmed that. So she was trying to mount the zebra, which had already hurt multiple other people on the set, and they kept the zebra, which, like, this is a form of animal abuse. Like, a zebra should not be.
Exactly. And like, I don't know this because I'm not an animal person, but I don't think that people commonly ride zebras like that. It's not like a horse where they're used to it. They do that. It's just like a zebra is a wild animal that lives in Africa. Like, I don't think people there ride it like a horse. Like, it probably hated it and was kicking people off.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened. They put her on the zebra and it kicked her off. And then she had debilitating back pain, she said, for the rest of her life due to that accident. So at the time it happened, they asked if she was okay, but because of all the pressure on her, I'm sure by her family and her agents and everybody handling her career, she lied and said that she felt fine, but claimed she had debilitating back pain that entire time. And even earlier this year, she was seen on crutches at the airport and said it was due to back pain. So I think with the introduction of like, what do you think these happy pills are? Like Xanax or something? Like, I don't even know what they would be.
No, I don't think they would give her Xanax because that would it's a depressant. I feel like either they gave her something like Prozac or something to have her always feel happier, or they were giving her to give her something to be like acutely happy like that. I would say it would be something like Adderall or like some kind of a stimulant.
And then to think about that, and then if she's having the back pain too, then maybe she starts doing other types of pills to deal with the back pain, and then that starts leading into the substance abuse issues that she had her whole life. I mean, she was 36 years old when she died. It was just days before her 37th birthday. She has had like 5 lifetimes over of what any other person she knows had, right? with all this trauma. Her brother died just a couple years ago too, at 28 years old. She had a lot of trauma from that. And then when she gave birth to her daughter, I think her daughter's 11 now. So when she gave birth to her daughter, she ended up giving full custody over to her daughter's dad, who then brought the kid overseas to live. And she said it was in an effort to give her daughter a better life. Like, how sad is this?
Yeah, and on top of that, she was battling postpartum depression, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's way harder when you already possibly have a little bit. I mean, she could have potentially been doing drugs prior to being pregnant, so you have a history of substance abuse. You have a terrible childhood. You have a terrible mother that's not there to help you, and then talk about like the Neutrogena gig, that she had like a really good gig there, that she was like the spokesmodel for Neutrogena for almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, and then she said when she had, I guess this was in her book too, that when she spoke out about having the postpartum depression in 2015, then Neutrogena all of a sudden dropped her. They, of course, claimed it wasn't due to that. And then only after she died did they issue an apology saying they made her feel unsupported during a very difficult time, and that this is not what Neutrogena stands for or who we want to be. Like, you were a company...
That reminds me of the, Target just put out a statement
I saw
last night or today about this terribly racist Halloween costume that they had on their site. And you're just like, dude... Like, your statements are written by some PR person and you don't mean them, because if you did, like, you wouldn't have done this.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, we had a high-profile death dissection Maria did last week while I was away on Ruby Ridge. And this week we did Jimmy Chris Duncan. And this is a really, really interesting case about a guy who was accused of committing a horrific crime against his girlfriend's little baby daughter and was put in jail and actually had the death penalty sentence too. And he was falsely accused. And we go through the case and how the forensics were mistaken back then, and even how the medical examiner probably was, I don't even know what to say, if they were actually trying to be negligent or something even more sinister. I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, but it's a really interesting case about how forensic techniques kind of evolve over time, and what we thought was good maybe 20 years ago is not good now, and things like that. So that's a really good one to look into. We had a couple of cringy fingernail and toenail injuries. Sometimes people think that they're worse than seeing someone get their head cut off. We did have a case that's titled Highway Spray that was from one of the Mother Knows Death listeners, of an accident that they just so happened to drive by and saw horrific things that he didn't even notice. He didn't even notice how bad the accident was until he went home and saw the picture and zoomed in on it and was like, oh my God. We have 2 rectal foreign body cases. I'm going to tell you the names of the articles, and then you could try to figure out what the foreign body is. One of them is Can't Beat the Feeling. So if you know what slogan what product that slogan is from, then you could figure out what the rectal foreign body was. Also, A River Runs Through It. So try to,
oh my goodness.
So try to see what that is. And of course, we have YouTube Live. We just did one on Sunday night because I was away last week, and we're going to have one again this Friday, 12 noon. That's our normal time, and that's really fun. So check that out.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up. Speaking of, a listener last night sent me a picture of the butt face toy at her local Target and said, I just saw this. Like,
wait, so Laura texted me this morning and she said, guess what its name is?
What?
You're not going to believe this. Its name is Chester.
What? Like Chester the molester?
Like Chester the molester. Yes. Like it. And did you see it? Because I was looking it up online to see. I saw a video of a child playing with it, and it was so disturbing. It was like this fat little kid, like 5-year-old hand. You know how their hands are kind of chubby still?
And cute.
Like sticking his finger in like a butt crack. I was just like, this is so ridiculous. And the thing is like shaped like a butt, and it has a hair like a troll.
Ew.
Yeah, it's really weird. And it's like brown hair. Like, it's so freaking weird. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Chester,
I cannot believe that thing's name is Chester. It is unbelievable. I just can't believe it.
I know, it's gross.
And when people are like, the world is run by pedophiles, like, it's hard not to believe that anymore.
It really is. So like, anyway, big companies, fake apologies. They feel like, and really, this just coincides with Lindsay Clancy, because this is like the biggest thing. They know Neutrogena, like, is probably 85% of female sales, right?
Yeah.
And they know that women are like really invested in that case. So they're like, we're going to have to put something out. I honestly think if the Lindsay Clancy thing wasn't happening right now, that they wouldn't even have put this out. I do. I think that they're scared that people are going to stop buying their stuff.
If she claimed that in her book months ago, why did they only issue the apology when she died?
Exactly.
It's disgusting, really. So I think she just had so much going on. I don't know if the boyfriend's being looked at for this case, but I mean, he was definitely there. It's looking like an overdose at this point, which I don't think would be surprising considering she had an established history of substance abuse and was just constantly going through a terrible time. It's just really sad it had to go down this way.
It is. It's sad. And it's like, when you sit there and you think about people who were child actors, it's just like, I mean, you could sit there and name Amanda Bynes, Britney Spears, like, go on and on and on. Like, it's such a small handful of people, like Jodie Foster, for example, that you could be like, okay, well, she was, and then she did like Silence of the Lambs, and she was like a really established actor, and she seems to be okay. Like, you don't really hear much about her. Maybe that's why, because she's not really a person that's on social media, or like stays behind the scenes when she's not acting, right?
Pretty sure.
I mean, you never hear about her.
I'm pretty sure Jodie Foster, when she was a teenager, was like in a movie where she got molested by like her music teacher or something.
Well, she was like, but that was the movie. She was in Taxi Driver. Like,
I know, but I'm just saying, it's just like everything goes back to something
the
horrible.
roles that she was, but I mean, like, I'm just saying that there's a rare person. I mean, like, what was the guy's name from the Danny Bonaducci? He was like a freaking mess. Like, all of these kids grow up, and if they stay in Hollywood, they just seem like, I mean, like, Amanda Bynes is just so sad to look at.
Imagine Lillian being responsible for the finances of our entire family. Like, think about this.
No, it's
sad.
It's a lot. It's a lot for an adult to be the breadwinner or be responsible for the finances of the family, and for a child to have that pressure, I can't imagine it. And I think one thing that we didn't mention too is with Hayden's mom. I think at some point she went up to her and said, "I don't want you to be my manager anymore. I just want you to be my mom." And she responded and said, "You owe me."
See,
that's so gross.
Everyone should read Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, because I really think it opens up that door. Like, you can really see how problematic the parent-to-child relationship is when the child is making the income for the family.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
All right.
Okay, so all right, so now we're
Speaking
talking
of
about
wigs, Kim Zolciak.
So wait, I have to ask you, because remember after she did the Housewives show, she had that, like, don't be tardy for the party show or whatever it was called.
Yes, it's when she was marrying Croy.
So that's the last time I've been in touch with these people. So this is the baby that was in that show.
All right.
She had like kids. She had like a teenage girl already, right?
She had Brielle. And then she used to have a sugar daddy named Big Papa, who has since passed away. R.I.P. Big Papa. So Kim Zolciak's a Real Housewife of Atlanta. And yeah, so she eventually got a spinoff show when she met NFL player Croy Bierman, and they had a show called Don't Be Tardy, and she had an amazing song called Don't Be Tardy for the Party. It was so bad. It was so amazing.
So bad. It was good.
But yeah, so they had more. I think they had 4 more kids together or something crazy. Like they had a bunch of kids together, but she had Brielle before that. And never forget when she tweeted out, "Whose dick does Brielle have to suck to get tickets to this concert?" When Brielle was like 17 or 18 years old.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely crazy. Anyway, their 15-year-old son, Croy Bierman Jr. He has been arrested and charged with sexual battery and sodomy after allegedly assaulting a female classmate.
Yeah, so this happened at, I guess he was at the gym, and they said that he physically restrained her, forced her to give him oral sex, it seems, and then digitally penetrated her. I would assume it's in her anus because it's for sodomy charges. So she did go to the hospital and had a sexual assault nurse give her an examination, and they didn't find any male DNA in her, which doesn't mean, because there wouldn't necessarily be anything there if he just forced her to perform oral sex, and well, potentially I guess oral sex if he orgasmed in her mouth, but they would be able to potentially get DNA that way, but from digital penetration, no. So the thing is, though, is that that information hasn't come out yet, the report of the sexual assault nurse, that they would be able to see signs of trauma that she had, because typically if a person is trying to digitally penetrate you against your will, it's going to be vigorous, and it could leave marks from fingernails to just stretching or any abnormal movements there. So that could be listed in the report, that there could be tears and lacerations perhaps that we don't know about yet that could actually prove it, which I think that there probably is, because at that point, if there was nothing seen on the exam, it would be like a his word versus her word situation, and he wouldn't be currently arrested. And he's, I mean, is this true that he's arrested, he's being charged as an adult, and he's not being released right now?
I don't know if he's not being released or not. I didn't see that. But my question is this happened in April, and the police said they were in touch with his parents as early as the middle of May. So why did he just get arrested last week?
Well, maybe more information came out from the sexual assault nurse report. I'm not really sure.
So
if there was like additional testing done or something like that. Like, we just don't know the whole story 100%.
Kim is, of course, denying this. And she said he voluntarily took a polygraph exam and he passed. But we know that's like considered junk science anymore. So I don't really know. Like, I hate to talk.
Is he saying it didn't even happen at all, or he's just saying it was like consensual?
I don't think he's speaking out on it either way. She's just saying it did not happen. But that's what her account of it. She said, "I'm vehemently denying these accusations." So I don't know if that means that he actually went forward, or they had some type of sexual encounter and they're saying it was consensual, or if they're trying to say it didn't happen at all. What's really bizarre was it happened, like you're saying, it was at a Lifetime Fitness, but it was in this family changing room area. Like, how does that work? A family changing room? Are there private rooms you go in?
Maybe, I don't know. I've never been
because
there.
When
I'm
you
just
go to
curious. Like, do they have cameras?
Well, not if it's going to be
they
in a
have to have
private changing room.
Yeah, perhaps, but at least like they would have cameras of them going into the room, and if he's, it just depends on what he's saying. Like, he might say, "Oh, I wasn't even there," or "I didn't even go in a room with her," and then all of a sudden, like, it looks like he's lying because they could see on video that he was. I just feel like if a woman goes and says to the police that this happened, they can't, I just don't feel like they could arrest and hold somebody if they didn't have more concrete evidence.
No, they have to have something, especially if he just got arrested, because like they're saying they were aware of it pretty quickly after it happened. So it's not like,
I mean, she went to the hospital right away.
Yeah, it's not like, yeah, exactly. It's not like they just found out about it right now and he got arrested. I mean, it's been months. So I don't really know what new evidence they found. Maybe they can't disclose that because they're both minors, but he is being charged as an adult. So I'm interested to see how this pans out. I mean, I hate to talk smack on Kim Zolciak because she is one of my top tier housewives of all time, but her and Croy have been going through this absolutely horrendous, tumultuous divorce. Losing the house. It's been a total mess. I'm sure that is not a good environment for the kids to be in.
Yeah. I mean, even when they were together and married, you would say that it was a little crazy, like whatever was portrayed, at least on TV.
I mean, like,
so.
I know her as this, like, outrageous woman that wore giant blonde wigs and chain smoked cigarettes in her house and played online casino games and drank a bunch of Diet Coke, like, which is, like, funny to watch on TV. But, like, in real life, it's not funny because I actually believe her, like, excessive gambling is what led them to lose their house and, like, most of their money. So, like, there's a lot going on in that family. And we're now seeing how that's trickling down into the next generation who has clearly been witnessing this their whole lives, and they're not healthy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like there's no excuse for it. I mean, he's just it sucks really bad that a kid would, when any child commits a crime like this, it's like you basically ruined your life in a little way. Like, even though eventually you'll get out of jail and you could totally clear your record and, like, change your life around, that thing is always lingering. So anytime you need to go get a job, anytime you want to meet a new girlfriend, anytime you want to meet their family, like, this is all public now. And you've tarnished your reputation for the rest of your life.
Well, I mean, if he wants to follow in his dad's and play football, I'm sure the NFL will have a nice blind eye towards it like they do with everything else. So I'm sure he'll have a nice lucrative career in football.
Yeah, they'll just brush it under the rug.
All right. An MRI tech is facing jail time after forcing a 16-year-old girl to do sexual poses during her exam.
All right. So this story is really disturbing. This is a 37-year-old MRI tech who brought a 16-year-old girl into the room to do an MRI. On her knee, like she had a hamstring injury, and they were trying to check. They were doing her knee and her leg, right? So first, he says to remove her shorts and underwear. So the girl says, "Why do I have to remove my shorts and underwear?" And he insisted that she had to do it. So now this is the problem, because the 16-year-old is alone in the room with a 37-year-old man.
Which was the PSA that our listener wrote in last week and said, never let your minor children go unattended during tests.
Yeah, like she just said that last week. And that's the thing, because the mother is like, was literally there, you know, right when it was happening, but wasn't in the exact room. And I could say that too. Like, Lucia's had MRIs a bunch of times. I was able to go sit in, I don't know if it was the room or like close by, but it's just different at the Children's Hospital. I'm not sure. This was like a private orthopedic group, I guess, where this MRI was performed. So she had to take off her shorts and underwear, and he gave her a gown, which you would say, like, okay, I believe that you can get this test done with, I don't think that you need to even have, I guess.
No,
I'm not sure.
The last couple MRIs I've got, I mean, they've been on my head, but I've been allowed to wear all my clothing. Like, I haven't had to take it off.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, I don't think so. I guess the concern is the metal. Like, if you're wearing jeans, perhaps if there's metal in the jeans.
And weirdly, Lululemon products are on the list of clothes you can't wear because I guess they have some type of metal in them.
But even so, like, so when Lucia gets, she has to get a full body MRI for her bone disorder. They give her like a little pair of scrubs to put on, like for, you know, like a kid size. So I think actually for adults, sometimes they give those, like, because when Lulu got bigger, actually, I remember her getting some kind of testing done, and they gave her these weird, like, shorts that were made, but they were like the length of jams, like past your knees, and they were made of that material. It's like the same material that they make like shoe covers out of.
Oh, okay.
You know, that weird like papery material. So a gown, like it just doesn't make any sense that would be required. Certainly not to remove underwear. Like, we know that, right? So, so she goes and does this, and she's getting the test done, and he's like, "Oh, I can't get the pictures." And then So when you put on a gown, it ties, it's just a classic one that goes in the front and it ties in the back. So basically your entire back is open and your butt is exposed too. So then he instructed her to lay on the table face downward on her forearms and raise her butt in the air. Like doggy style pose basically. Now think she's wearing a gown. She has no underwear on. So her entire like ass and vagina and vulva is like out there exposed wide open, and he's sitting there saying that that's what he needs to do imaging on her leg.
And like she doesn't know better, she's a teenager.
So she, like, I think it's awesome because now I was thinking like, oh my god, because like what if if this was one of my kids, like I would hope that they would know right away that was wrong. And she like leaves the room and tells her mom right away.
That is awesome.
And the mom like literally went right to the police department. It happened so fast.
Well, it's good that they knew to do
great.
that right away.
Yeah, because I just would have, like, I feel like if my kid came in the car and said that, I would have been like, what do you mean? I don't even know that I would have went to the police right away. I feel like I would have called first and been like, what's your protocol for this? Because this doesn't seem appropriate. Like, I would have asked, I actually probably would have called my sister-in-law. I sent her the story because she does the same exact job. She literally does orthopedic MRI imaging. That's what she does for a living. So I would have called her and just been like, what do you think about this? Because I don't see why they ever would have needed to do this particular angle. It's just I feel like it's just so shocking that thinking about bringing your child to get imaging done that you wouldn't even like you'd be like, there has to be some kind of explanation for this. Like they need some kind of view. I don't know. Like it just would be so hard to wrap your brain around the fact that your child was just sexually assaulted like that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Because I think as an adult, you would just be like maybe you wouldn't think twice. Maybe you wouldn't think about the gown part of it, right? But when they're trying to get you in doggy style and exposing your genitals so they could see it at the screen, then as an adult, you'd be like, no. But a teenager doesn't know better. They don't know how these things are done.
Yeah, it's just so... You know what it reminds me of? Remember this story when, like, so my mom was going to the dentist, and the dentist was, like, keeping... The dentist would, like, put a towel on my mom's chest and laid the tools that he was working with on her boobs, like, on her chest. And she said one day she's like, I was getting dental work done, and she just felt like really claustrophobic or something. Like she just felt, she like got up out of the chair and like flung up out of the chair, like sat up. And she's like, all of the tools fell all over the floor because they were on her chest. And she was just like, why are you putting the tools on my chest anyway?
Was she like partially unconscious? Like she was getting like work done?
Yeah, she was getting work done. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry if that bothers you. I just leave them there because it's easier for me to access. I'll put a note in your chart that makes you uncomfortable.
I'll put a note in your chart that you don't want to be molested by me.
Yeah, and I'm like, ew, like it is just really bizarre. And like if anyone is working in the dental field listening to this, you're going to be like, okay. And then she obviously was like, I'm never going back there. Like you're not putting anything in my chart because I'm never coming back here again. But she didn't even like realize it though. She could have had like gas or something and not and been like totally felt up and stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like think about how many times this stuff happens and goes unreported because you either in your head are like thinking there's no way that just happened to me or there's no way they meant it like that. You know what I mean? So many people probably can't even mentally be like what occurred to me was wrong. And that's why it's really great that that girl was immediately able to realize it and tell her mom and get this guy arrested.
Do you know, I never told you, I don't know if I ever told you this before, and I was thinking about this after reading this story last night, getting ready for the show. Like, I went to some headache specialist once because, you know, I was having, like, really bad problems with migraines, and it was, like, I was younger. I was only, like, in my 20s, and I was, like, a one-on-one with, like, this older guy who was, like, some kind of neurology person, or I don't know if it was, like, neurology or psychology, whatever it was, and he was asking me like all of these symptoms he was just like, when you get a headache, do you have an aura, like stuff like that, right? And then he was just like started asking me like weird sexual questions. He was just like, do you ever have an orgasm when you have a headache? And I was like,
What?
no. And I always wanted to like ask somebody like, is that a thing?
I
that
don't
like,
think that's a thing. Like,
well, you know, sometimes you could just have like when you have problems with your nervous system and stuff, like you could have things that cause you to pee yourself and stuff. Like, I didn't know if it was I just like in hindsight, I was kind of like, that was weird. And it was very uncomfortable to be in a room like one-on-one with like an older guy like that and just being like, why is he asking me about having orgasms right now?
Like, it's context though. Like when you're at pelvic floor therapy and they're like, does it hurt when you orgasm? It's because they're working on that area of your body. Like, that makes sense. When you're at the neurologist, that should not be coming up.
Yeah, like I said, there was nothing about any of that like that I brought up. I just was like, no, dude, like I just like want to lay down for a half hour. That's it. I didn't say I was having any kind of symptoms. Like it just and I was just like, was he, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know. I just think it was weird and it could have.
At least he asked you questions. That one neurologist I went to was like, oh, you have headaches? Here's anti-seizure medicine. Not even like, oh, why don't we try and adjust your diet or like try doing other things, you know?
What about that eye doctor that like used to like rub his crotch against us?
Guys, we went to the eye doctor once. And, like, you know, you're, like, sitting in the chair and they gotta, like, scooch up. So I was, like, I had to be, like, 16. And I was 18 because you were pregnant. I remember you were pregnant with Lillian when this happened. So I'm in the exam room and the guy scooches up and like his junk touches my knee. And I'm just like, oh, maybe it was an accident, you know, because of the way they got to sit. And then it happened again. And I was like, this is making me uncomfortable. So then we get in the car and you had your exam right before me. And I was like, did his dick touch your leg? And you were like, yeah. We really should have reported that.
Yeah, because he was like an older dad type guy who was wearing these khaki pants, but his pants were like so tight that you could like see his bulge through his pants. And I just remember like him kind of like almost like straddling my knee to look at my eye. And I'm just kind of like, why is his dick anywhere near my knee right now? It's weird.
I feel like this plays into the like, you and I had a conversation about it, but we were like, he just couldn't have meant it that way. It had to be an accident. And now I still go to a different male eye doctor, and when I go there, he is nowhere near me like that.
Yeah,
nowhere near me.
I was thinking about that recently because I go to a woman now, and I was just like, how come she is like nowhere near me at all like that? And he was like I don't know, it probably was like it, and like you guys that are listening to this right now, you're probably like getting like reminded of like certain weird things that have happened to you that you're like, wait a second, like was that?
But that's a prime
but this
example.
girl's case is obvious, like way more obvious that something was wrong.
No, totally. But what happened to us is a prime example of like, we were aware it was weird, but like couldn't go there, that it was like some form of an assault of sorts, you know? Where you don't want to like ruffle any feathers by reporting somebody, because
we did think he was a perv and labeled him as such and never went back again. I know that.
Yeah, but we really should have probably said something about that, because that was the problem. But like this is the issue we face today, where it's like people are scared to speak out because it's like you don't want to ruin somebody's life if you take something the wrong way. But then again, you just are sitting there being like, did that really happen to me, or did I just make that up, or like, am I taking it the wrong way? You know what I mean? And this is the problem with all that type of stuff.
Yeah. And in this particular case, especially in a case like this, I feel like it's way more obvious that it was.
No, this was blatant sexual assault.
Yeah.
Like,
and I would have like, I definitely would have called. I would have called the police eventually, but I also would have called his work right away and been like, I need to speak to the manager of radiology right now. And like,
I just also have a hard time with it because I've gotten a couple MRIs in the last year, and it's like there's so many people working there. I just don't even understand how he was alone enough to do this.
Yeah, I'm not, but it's probably because it appeared to be like a smaller practice that just does orthopedic stuff. But I know a lot of places have rules as far as like being, I mean, like she was a minor still technically, so that was unusual. But if it's in a smaller town or something and they just don't have the staff, like I really just, I don't know.
I don't know. So, of course, justice was not served. He got a split sentence of 60 days in jail and then 3 years of probation as to register as a sex offender. Like 2 months in jail is a joke. That's a teenager.
Yeah, but is that what he got? Because I thought that's what prosecutors offered.
No, it said he was
like
sentenced to a split sentence of 60 days incarceration.
Yeah.
And the 3 years probation.
And he was sentenced to a stay away order protecting the victim. So
okay, but what like this is again going back to what we were saying. Like, how many other victims did he have that didn't speak up?
I mean, I'm assuming that he's no longer allowed to practice, and I mean, like, he's not only no longer able to practice, but if any medical facility is hiring a person, they should be doing background checks, and this should come up. So hopefully this guy will never be able to work in a hospital or a medical center again. But like, I still feel like he's prone to sexually assaulting somebody in a different kind of way.
Well, exactly. All right, so we had talked about this human skull that was donated to a Goodwill, and it turns out that it was not a medical specimen like originally assumed.
So what happened was they got the skull and it was wrapped inside of a shirt and donated. And we've had a couple stories of that over the past couple of years. And the first thought is just like, okay, this is like an old medical specimen. But even if they get something like that, they're automatically going to bring it to the medical examiner's office just to confirm. So they bring it to the medical examiner's office. And do you remember when we were covering the Jonathan Gerlach case? Yeah. And he had all of those pictures. Like, one of the reasons that he got caught robbing graves, this was the guy that was robbing the graves in Pennsylvania, is because he was posting all of these skulls and stuff for sale and just things that he had in his collection on Instagram. And they look much different. We actually, when we were on True Crime with the Sarge with Joe Jacqueline, remember when he called me a wacko? I was showing him a picture of my, like, a skull in my collection, which is like a medical skull. It's very cleaned bones. It looks like the bone is white. The calvarium or the skull cap is cut off so you could see inside where the brain usually sits. There's lots of hinges on it. Some medical skulls have even paintings and drawings on it to show different anatomical features, and there's very clean cuts with a bone saw. Like, you could tell when a skull is a medical skull. So they bring this one to the medical examiner's office, and the medical examiner already automatically knows this is not a medical skull because there's like still soil on it. So it was, at some point, it was buried under the ground, whether it came from a grave or it was someone that was killed and buried in a home dug grave. This skull was underground.
So in some capacity, there's a crime involved, whether it was like grave robbing or a murder.
Well, they're just trying to figure out like who this is, number one, and where this came from. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person that dropped it off committed the crime, because they might have had it, you know, one of their parents died and it was like in their house and they were like, what do I do with this? I'm just going to donate it. Like, regardless, like at some point, yes, I don't know how it came up out of the ground.
Yeah, so they said the skull belongs to a black woman between the ages of 20 and 49, unclear when the woman died, and there's no signs of trauma. So I guess this is a case where a forensic artist would really come into play, because they could try to reconstruct what they believe their face would look like to help identify. So we have a very good interview with former FBI forensic artist Lisa Bailey you guys could listen to from a couple years ago.
Well, for the first thing that they do at the medical examiner's office, because the medical examiner typically, like, they know bones and stuff, but they would defer usually to a forensic anthropologist who specializes in cases just like this. And they'll look at it and try to, so that's how they were able to determine the age and the ethnicity of this particular skull. So, and it's the problem is that without the rest of the body, it's very hard to pinpoint exact things. But based on when they look at the cranial sutures, so that's where the skull bones, you know how like little Waylon has a soft spot right now?
Yeah.
Like that's the called the fontanelles, right? The bones are called the fontanelles, and once his head and his skull become more rigid, those fontanelles are going to fuse and they form sutures. So do you ever look at a skull and you see those like little squiggly lines? Yeah. So when you're younger, the squiggly lines are more prominent, and as you get older, they become more blurred almost. So that's why they gave a range of 20, what was it? They said that she was between 20 and 49 or something like that. Is that what they said?
20 to 49.
Age of the skull, 20 to 49. So that's why it's such a large range, because they look at teeth, like wisdom teeth and things like that. That's how they're able to tell like it's not a little kid, or
sometimes that little spot in his head, it's like moving a little bit.
Yeah, like, it pulsates.
It's like winking at me. Like, why is it doing that?
It has a little pulse. It's just like, hey.
It's so weird.
But then they look at the ancestry to see if so they determine that it's from an African descent. So they can't really tell exactly anything like that. What they do is they do all these different kinds of measurements of the eye sockets and the nose bridge and all of these different things, and they put it into a computer that has statistics of all of millions of skulls and what their measurements are, and that's how they kind of try to determine like what area of the world a person has at least the ancestry comes from, right? Which doesn't mean anything, because if it is from African ancestry, like that doesn't mean that person didn't move to America, but it could be from you know what I mean? Like they don't know at this point. So which is it's really interesting actually, because if you go to the Mutter Museum in Philly, they have a whole entire wall of skulls. There's over 100 on this wall, and it's really amazing to look at them all together. It says like where they're from, how old the person is, and if it's male or female, but they're just so different and they vary so much. So like that's how you could see why people look so different, and also just like how they're able to determine this based on that. And then as far as the male female goes, also just without having the full skeleton, it makes it more difficult because the pelvis is helps identify for sure. But also like female skulls just tend to be like a little bit more delicate appearing. Like a man, they'll look at like the brow bone, for example. Like if you look at like a man, like look at your husband, your dad, whatever, and just see like their forehead is kind of like underneath their eyebrows is like thick and it's not very flat. That's like the brow bone is one common thing, but there's all these other different things. So at least they're able to determine that. And now they will use a forensic artist, I'm sure, but also like they're sending it to the FBI lab in Quantico. So they'll use the FBI artist, but on top of that, they're going to use computer reconstruction. And of course they can do DNA, which would be probably the most helpful. But even if they have a DNA profile, it might not attach to anyone and they might not know who it is.
Yeah.
So, but we'll let you guys know, because it's an interesting case to see how they're going to be able to track this person and found out where this skull came from. And then you got to figure out like who dropped it off and how that connection was made.
Yeah, I honestly can't. They have to have illegal things dropped off all the time. I can't believe they don't make you fill something. Like when I go drop something off, you don't really have any interaction with the people unless you're getting a receipt for like your taxes. So otherwise you're just
like, can't you just drop trash bags in the back of the store?
Yeah. Or not even that, but like there's just those donation boxes all over that don't necessarily go to Goodwill, but they go to other places that are similar. And now they've started putting cameras outside of them, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily.
Yeah, because I mean, exactly. Like who knows what that is?
Yeah, like how are they even going to know what bag? I mean, that's going to be a serious investigation to go back and try to track down who dropped it off.
It's just kind of dumb if you're a criminal. Like what? I just don't understand what people do.
Unless somebody
they just thought
died and
that
it
was
was
gonna
in
be
their
like,
house and they donated it thinking it was fine.
yeah, you never know. Like, that's like, how do you know that someone didn't buy a skull off of a Jonathan Gerlach type of person 30 years ago and just had it at their house?
That's what I'm saying.
And they don't know how old it is, but I think that they said that it's well preserved. So I would say that it's intact at least, but it's probably safe to say that it's not like some kind of ancient like burial ground remains.
Yeah.
Like, they could usually tell if it's like that old. So who knows? I'm very like invested in this case now, though.
All right, last. A woman is paralyzed after a medication mix-up during several surgeries at a hospital in Tennessee.
This story is out of control. So they're saying at least 4 patients underwent routine joint replacement surgery. So just like go get your knee replaced. It's a relatively common procedures. There can be complications, but this is definitely not a complication. This is a mistake. And they were supposed to be getting an epidural anesthesia. So you've had an epidural, right?
Yeah.
It was meant to be to numb you kind of from the waist down. And it was called, what is it? Bupivacaine? I never heard of that particular drug. But it's a local anesthetic that's used to numb the lower body during surgery. So common. Instead, somehow they were given potassium instead of this drug, this anesthetic. So injecting concentrated potassium into or around the spinal cord can dramatically alter electrical activity of the nerves, muscle cells. High concentrations can cause severe neurological injury. And on top of that, potentially a fatal cardiac arrhythmia or just making the heart stop.
Like,
right?
For context, they said potassium's used in lethal injection.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's
Like,
terrifying.
it is. So it's, I don't even understand why they had that there.
Well, they said they believe the mix-up happened in the pharmacy department. Not like in the room itself.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I mean, I know that it's like, obviously it's a pharmacological error, but you have to say there's all different places that could happen, all the way up into including the actual person that is sending the drugs to the hospital. There's been lots of cases over time of like, was it happen at the nurse level? Did it happen at the pharmacy level? Or did it happen at the distributor level? Like...
Yeah, exactly. Or did somebody do it intentionally? That's always the thought. Or it was something... Was it just pure negligence? Like somebody mislabeled something or whatever. It could be a million scenarios.
I mean, I just can't even see why they would need to have that drug on that particular floor for those procedures anyway. So I would say that it is safe that it was an error that happened in the pharmacy at least, or prior to that. But God, I mean, one of the patients that went in to get a knee replacement is now in the intensive care unit and is paralyzed
from the chest down
because of this. From the chest down.
That is awful. Like, when I got my C-section and they put the anesthesia and they were like, you're going to be numb from your chest down, it was an awful feeling. It feels like you're not breathing. It's so scary. I can't imagine that being permanent, let alone, like, the 20 minutes I was conscious during that was horrible.
And it's like, this is an obvious case where medical malpractice lawsuits are, like, made for. An obvious case, right? But... think about this, like a person that's going in to get a joint replacement you would assume has a lot more life left in them, because they're trying to get their joint replaced because they're in pain when they walk and they want to be able to walk without being in pain. So they feel they have a lot more life to live. And now they went in to do this because they were having a little bit of pain, and now they're going to be bound to a wheelchair. So it doesn't matter how much money you get if you could afford a full-time caregiver and this and that. Like,
it just shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't have happened. Exactly, it shouldn't have happened. And the hospital puts out a statement like, oh, we're, whatever bullshit statement they say, but you're just kind of like, how do you even feel safe going there? You just feel like the whole place just needs to shut down? Like, how do you even feel safe going there?
No, I agree. Imagine everybody scheduled to go to surgery there now.
And it's not even just traumatic for the patient and their family. It's traumatic for the nurses and the doctors that were involved in these cases, because ultimately there was a nurse or a doctor who administered this medication to this person and did this to them unknowingly. But like, imagine having that to go home to, that like you were the one that unintentionally paralyzed the person.
If it was purely unintentional and not due to negligence, like they can't hold that over their head. I know it's
still upsetting though.
No, totally.
It's upsetting, and it's scary, like being a person that practices, when you're trusting something like that to be what it is and it's not. It's just like that kind of puts like a tarnish on how you feel about your whole entire career after that, because you're always going to be questioning. And when you have a clear substance in a bag, it's not like you could double check. What could you do if it was wrong?
Yeah, exactly. All right, on to your questions and emails. If you guys have questions or stories for us, please submit them to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. First is from Natalie. I went to a friend's wedding in Mallorca a couple years ago, and we went to explore Palma City the day before the wedding. We found one of those stupid fake weed shops, marijuana isn't legal in Spain, that sells bongs, etc., and we bought some gummies that had mushroom shapes all over the packaging because we like magic mushrooms. We knew these didn't contain psilocybin, but we hoped whatever the psychoactive substance was in them would have a similar effect. Each packet had 6 gummies in them, and the guy in the shop told us that we should take all 6 because that's what the dose was. Don't worry, we weren't that stupid to take all 6 at once. On the way home, I decided to eat one. We were in a small village along the train line back from Palma near our Airbnb, and it had stopped in the middle of town to have a drink and watch a little festival with people and kids dancing in traditional outfits to traditional music. I ate one of the gummies. After about 30 minutes, I lost the ability to speak, and it was like I was floating above my body. I was just watching the dancers in a daze like I was underwater. My friends had to escort me back to our Airbnb as I wouldn't have been able to find my way home. I remember we were discussing what pizza to order when we got back, and they asked me a question, but 5 minutes later I couldn't remember if I had actually spoken the answer out loud or not. It lasted hours. At the wedding, I decided not to take any, but a friend of mine did. She ended up puking in the bushes and all down her nice dress and had to be taken home early. Luckily, the bride and groom didn't know anything about it. Thank God we didn't take all 6 at once. Never again. Forget I had them in my bag and later found them after I had flown home and gone through airport security. Whoops. Threw them straight into the bin. Keep up the great work. I love listening to your podcast while I'm at my pottery making class.
Oh my, I wonder what it was.
I don't know, but that sounds so scary.
It was probably like that Delta weed or something, because a lot of people say that they have weird reactions to that. I wonder how Spain gets around it.
Because
it was definitely something, because that's not like, No,
oh my God. That must be, like, you're in a different country. It's just so scary to think of something like that happening.
Also, just like, think about traveling for a friend's wedding and getting sick like that and throwing up all over yourself and stuff. It's like so embarrassing.
What kind of ceramics are you making? We're interested. Should I start a craft club? I kind of want to. I don't even know how I would execute it.
I am so interested in crafts people do.
I am too. You know the one chick on How I Met Your Mother? She's like Jason Segel's wife on the show, Lily. I love that show so much. I was rewatching it, and then Netflix had the balls to take it off, so now I have to go find it elsewhere. Anyway, Allison Hannigan, she's a huge crafter, and I just started following her on Instagram because she just posts about all the crafts she's making.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
cool.
That's so sick. All right, last is from Christy. For the second time this year, someone I know died tragically, and it made the news. The first was Spring Weems, who was bludgeoned to death by her teenage son back in January. In this new case, Jenny was a fellow football mom who served on the booster board with me. I had just started getting to know her when we got the call that she passed away in Hawaii while away for work as a flight attendant. They said she fell from her hotel balcony. We don't think it was suicide because she had just texted another board member pics of her new tattoo she had gotten hours before. We're all very eager to find out the investigation results. It's surreal seeing someone you know all over the news. She was an amazing person and everyone is in shock that she's gone. I did see this floating around in the news, did you?
Yeah, so the first case that she was talking, did she write into us before?
Yeah.
Because we did talk about the first case before.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she wrote about knowing that person at that time.
Yeah, that's why I was like, because it was really familiar. But just to recap, that was a woman who was killed by her adoptive son. Remember, and she was like trying to get him mental health care, and it didn't work out clearly. So what was that, like a year ago? It had to be. It seemed like it was a while ago.
Back in January.
Yeah, so like 9 months ago. So this new one, I did hear about that. And it would be very unusual to go out and get a tattoo and then go kill yourself. But we don't know what's going on with people, if she was taking any substances or anything like that. But I did read that the homicide of department is now like taking over the case. Not to necessarily say that it's a homicide, but just maybe they feel like it warrants further investigation. So
that's awful.
It is awful, but it could just be, they don't really know. She doesn't live there, right? So it's just like they don't really know exactly what happened, but they might just be like, we need to look into this a little bit more. Or it could be like they looked at cameras and there's something to be concerned about.
But it's like, I always think about this. It's not even just the tragedy of losing a loved one. It's like the hassle of then getting them back when they're not where they live and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's absolutely hell for people Hawaii too, it's like you can't just drive them home. You have to get them flown home. It's expensive. Sometimes people don't have a ton of extra money to do that. You have to get them embalmed before you send them back. Yeah,
it's just an absolute nightmare. All right, well, sorry for your loss 2 times over this year. That is crazy that both people that died this year ended up being news stories, and it was tragic ways for both of them.
And both of the yeah, exactly. Both of the stories are tragic.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your submissions. Don't forget to submit those to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. Please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
See you guys later. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology, so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.